sort of started this deeper dive into what's the essence of community engagement? What makes people feel like they belong? And how can I create that right off the bat through my facilitation expertise from beginning, middle to end, from that first email, the onboarding, the welcome video, the music, the explanation of what's about to happen to them. And it really turned facilitation for me into more of an art form. And then, of course, again, I had to deconstruct it, codify it, and train my teachers how to do it too. And it wasn't long before I recognized that these same techniques that I was learning how to host an interactive, engaging, belonging-filled live experience that just so happened to be a yoga class with a glass of wine in hand are applicable to every gathering, everywhere, anytime.
Hi there, and welcome back to the Community Strategy Podcast. If you're returning, if this is your first time, hello, my name is Deb. I am the host here, and I jump in at the beginning of each episode to let you know a little bit about what's coming up in this episode. Today, I have Eli Walker. She designs events and programs that build play into belonging in the modern world and helps people use play to facilitate engaging meetings. She and I talked about having immersive storytelling and background mindfulness that she's had that brings her into this experience of uh, launching drunk yoga, sharing her experience with how that went viral, then also how COVID affected her business, and giving really great tips for community builders, like knowing, giving the opportunity for your members to stay or leave in a live event, telling them they can not participate if they want to. Those are things that I think we need to kind of consider when we're talking about the online space, because I think that really gives us a little bit more ability to bring the right people in the room. A lot of times I talk with clients and I'm like, we want to have the right people in the room. And I think this is part of, by saying, if you want to join the live, join. If you don't. It's really is another way of allowing the other person, the member, to opt in. I think that gets missed a lot. And so she talks a lot about that. And also, we talk about our improv and how much we love that. And we talk a lot about belonging and creating the conditions for belonging. So check it out. Enjoy the episode. Here it is. Hi there, and welcome back to the Community Strategy Podcast. My name's Deb, and we are here for another wonderful episode. This is season 3. If you're just joining us, welcome. We are focusing on talking with community builders who have a purpose and a mission and a passion about what they do as far as bringing people together. Today, I'm excited to introduce Eli Walker. She designs events and programs that help build play into belonging in the modern day world, and she helps others facilitate more engaging meetings as well. She has a BFA in theater from NYU and is the founder and author of Drunk Yoga, which is now Uplift Experience. She pioneered the wellness entertainment movement to bridge the gap between self-care and community care through her social yoga events. Welcome to the Community Strategy Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Deb. As always, so good to see you.
Yes, I don't even know where we met. I think it was in some other community event online. That's just the way my life tends to be. I meet somebody and I'm like, ooh, I love what you're doing. And so I was so thankful to have met you and really love what you're doing. So yeah, maybe dive in a little bit deeper to what brought you to community, because that's always a really interesting, fun thing to talk about.
Oh, sure. Oh gosh, I don't know what brought me to community building. I think I just was always interested in it. I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, and so being really engaged in community through volunteer organizations and things like that was always just a very big part of my upbringing and just the culture with which I was raised. Having gone to NYU to School of the Arts for acting, it sort of flipped my life, having revolved around a small, tight-knit community into a highly competitive, very individualistic setting. I think I started to see the stark differences and grew lonely. which was fine. We all go through those times in our lives where we have to sort of figure out who we are and be a lone wolf for a while and, pull ourselves up and get out in the world and have our own little journey. And so I pioneered my own acting career with a particular emphasis on community-based theater. And I can't tell you why I was interested in it. I just was. I was doing TV and film and commercials and voiceover and all the things, auditioning for all the toothpaste commercials and the Law and Order, and living in New York City with agents and doing the whole hustle. But I had always had, an idea in the back of my mind that after college, I would get back into community-based theater, which for listeners who might not know what that is, community-based theater is a very specific kind of immersive performance art where the facilitator, storytellers go into existing communities and use live storytelling, theater, to help individual members of the community tell their story, with the idea that by storytelling in the creation of it and the performance of it to participants in the community, they'll be able to sort of bridge sociological barriers and thrive. Usually in disenfranchised communities, this work is done. So I studied it in college and then worked for a few nonprofits doing adjacent work. Then I became a yoga teacher, so many actors do, and continued to act and teach yoga and do that hustle for several years in New York City until I was getting burnt out. And I thought, okay, this is not sustainable. I do need to make a change. And I remember thinking, okay, what is it that I love about acting? And what is it that I love about yoga that they have in common in such a way that I could pioneer my own business or endeavor that was a little bit more sustainable and lucrative.
Yeah.
And I thought of a lot of really bad ideas. But I had come to the conclusion that speaking around the subject matter of self-empowerment, community, belonging, that there was something there. But this was 7 years ago, and the thought hadn't fully formed. And lo and behold, I walked into a bar in 2017, not entirely sober, and stumbled upon the idea for drunk yoga. I thought, whoa, this would be perfect. What about turning yoga into a drinking game? It's just provocative enough to get people in the door,
Yeah.
uh, but it's joyful enough to really bring some integrity into this, world in which dogma and a sense of exclusivity might keep yogis from ever really trying the practice or feeling comfortable in a room full of strangers. And so I thought, what if I add the social ritual of a happy hour or morning cup of coffee, some fun Beyonce music, Spice Girls, throwback songs, and then, of course, some interactive drinking games to turn what is a conventionally introspective experience like a yoga class into a communal one.
Yeah.
Play. So in a conventional yoga class, for those of you who've never taken one, the idea is that you don't talk to anyone. You're kind of there for hashtag self-care. All the mats are facing one direction. You're kind of you do what you're told, you're quiet, and then you leave. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if I flipped that on its head and created a container in which the rules of the game required people to talk to each other? And came up with drinking games like if you're the last person to put your cup on your head, you have to make up a dance move, or if you spill on your mat, you have to give yourself a compliment, or you spill on your neighbor's mat, maybe you cheers them. So it's all very silly, and it was very fun. It went viral very quickly, and I got a book deal, and I was getting a lot of press, and the company grew and scaled. I brought it to LA and Dallas, and it was growing and growing, hired some teachers. And that's when things started to get interesting, Deb, because that's really when I started to learn that my favorite part about this business was teaching the yoga teachers how to sort of like let go of their yoga teacher voice and lead classes that were inherently engaging and sparked belonging rather than just telling people what to do with their bodies behind that fourth wall. And I had to sort of deconstruct what it is that I was doing as the host of this drunk yoga party in order to scale the business so that I could teach these yoga teachers how to do it too, how to embrace their authentic voice, use these games and these devices in a very specific order to, again, turn what would be a conventionally individualistic experience into a communal one. And I feel like I did that successfully, but then something happened. It was called COVID. I think we've all heard of it. And it sort of threw a wrench in my plans. And I had to pivot to virtual, which was interesting because I had to figure out how to get people to want to turn on their Zoom cameras. Because you can imagine if I can't doing a drunk yoga class for a team building event on Zoom, if I don't see the people put their cup on their head, no one can make up a dance move. I can't do my job. They can't have the experience they signed up for. So my job then became, how do I get people to feel comfortable enough around each other doing coworkers, right? Doing yoga in their living room with their pajamas on, feel comfortable enough to turn on their Zoom cameras. So that sort of started this deeper dive into what's the essence of community engagement? What makes people feel like they belong? And how can I create that right off the bat through my facilitation expertise from beginning, middle to end, from that first email, the onboarding, the welcome video, the music, the explanation of what's about to happen to them. And it really turned facilitation for me into more of an art form. And then, of course, again, I had to deconstruct it, codify it, and train my teachers how to do it too. And it wasn't long before I recognized that these same techniques that I was learning how to host an interactive, engaging, belonging-filled live experience that just so happened to be a yoga class with a glass of wine in hand are applicable to every gathering, everywhere, anytime. And so I started teaching these methods to all leaders, entrepreneurs, leaders of smaller teams, community builders who are just looking to build their first online course, or lead a gathering at a church, for example. So I started formalizing this into what I call the play method. And that sort of led to the rebrand of Drunk Yoga into the Uplift Center, which is now a much larger umbrella. And I like to call it a live experience design agency / school for belonging, where I can help facilitators just like all of you use play to spark radical belonging in any live experience anywhere.
Yeah. I love so many things that you said, but I wanted to jump back because I didn't really, I guess, connect that I don't know, we call it playback theater here in Pennsylvania. And when you started what you were just sharing, I was like, oh, wow, that's playback theater. I feel like it's a very similar thing because it's based in storytelling. And it's really funny that you brought this up because just in the past 2 years, I learned about playback theater. There's a local troupe that's called River Crossing Playback because they cross the rivers between Lancaster and the other part of Pennsylvania, like the central PA part. And I started being more active in this group recently and just discovered the power of storytelling and how it can transform communities in person. And so I just found that so interesting that I'm like, that is such a great way to learn about people, how to connect with people, and to learn to prioritize and listen to others' stories, I think, too. So I wanted to just say thank you because I love that you were sharing that. And yeah, the transformations of changes, right? That this goes through these ups and downs, and you pivoted so amazingly during the pandemic. It sounds like I'm sure it was very not it was a challenge for sure, but it sounds like you've made it past, the really rough places, and you're excited for this new part of the journey. And I'd love to see if you had any examples of some. I know I've done some with the workshops you've had, but maybe share a little bit more for the person listening about what tips you would give them around this kind of creating that belonging and sense of togetherness.
Yeah, so I would encourage anyone listening who is desiring to build community, for whatever that looks like to you. Bring people together, whether it's two or three friends on a Friday night, or you're trying to leverage community building as part of your core strategy for your business model.
Mhm.
To really hone in on your live experiences. I truly believe that belonging means knowing where you are, why you're there, and choosing to be there. So there's that third element of committing to your choice. Otherwise, you just happen to be in a room with some people.
Right.
Right. The difference between happening to be in a room with some people at a networking event and feeling like you belong at that networking event is your commitment, your choice, knowing where you are, why you're there, and choosing to be there. And then looking at all of these live experiences as the vehicle. So I believe that belonging can only be sparked in live experiences. And I use live experience very broadly. I think we have this idea that a live experience is like some big concert with all the fancy lights and music. But a live experience is this, you and I talking right here, right now. A live experience is really just two or more people sharing time and space with one another in such a way that it's contained with a clear beginning, middle, and end. And so when you can start to look at live experiences between you and your community, where you interact with them, the live experiences you are creating for them, even if you're not in the room, and
Yeah.
opportunities for them to create live experiences together horizontally, and then how to infuse play into those moments in order to um, uplift by creating moments of laughter and levity such that they can see a new perspective, sort of get up and over themselves. I like to say belonging is the art of getting over yourself. And
Mm,
I call it the uplift center because I believe the quickest way to spark belonging is to uplift and then find center. And so we find center by establishing a more refined relationship to our circumstances, understanding where we are, and
yeah, spatially, it seems like you're like spatially you're more aware and
spatially, but also figuratively. So quite literally in the rooms that you're in. But a container could also be, if you're virtual, like it could be the time of day that the event is. It could be, the music and the lighting, any sort of element of the live experience that's movable, malleable, or changeable through choice is part of the container. So any sort of boundary that you create through language, decision making, length of time that the breakout room is, if it's an in-person event, where people enter the space, going back to physical space and relation, how the noise level is in the space, how the noise is carrying, all of these things, much like theater,
yeah.
live experience design really matters, because the way that we can only belong in a space to the level at which we feel safe there. So your job as a facilitator is really about creating a space of safety. And I just think the quickest way to access a sense of safety is through laughter. So
Mhm.
getting really good at facilitating play and leveraging games in such a way that don't feel cringe, but more sophisticatedly. It seems simple, but it's tricky because you took my round table,
Yep.
where I talked a little bit about breaking down the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Art of really being able to name the unsaid as a facilitator to get everyone on the same page, which is a fancy way of saying just kind of name the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
It's a really hot day and the air conditioner isn't working and everyone's really grumpy. Maybe not a great atmosphere for cultivating belonging, but you could just say, "Hey guys, it's a really stinking hot in here, so this is henceforth a beach party. We're going to be playing Beach Boys now, and we're going to pull out a piñata or what was I thinking of? The when you like backbend underneath a pole. What is that?
Don't know. I've never backbended by a pole, so I can't relate to that experience.
Oh, this is gonna bother me. Like two people are holding like a stick and you like
Doing a balance like the under the
go
there's
into
a
the
song and you're dancing. I know what you're talking about now.
limbo
Yes, the
in the back.
limbo. The limbo
Yeah,
where there's people holding. Okay.
yeah,
And
like
you
that
were referencing that because
play.
play, because of play. Okay. Yeah. No, I think it's so great to I mean, I became a laughter yoga leader just like in 2022. And I just discovered in 2020 from some friends that we had done it together, how amazing and fun that is. And when I quit my corporate job, I was like, I gotta have more fun. Like life does not need to be so serious. And I'm one of these people who took myself so seriously. I'm like, we're getting to work, we're doing this stuff. And I think over the last couple of years, the groups that I've been in, different places or people that I've been in community with online, is different depending on the energy of who's in the room for sure. And some people, if you talk about laughter yoga and you like start laughing and you're demonstrating some stuff, there's going to be people who are like, yeah, I'm not doing that because I'm not looking silly. Right. And then there's other people who are like, all right, I'll try it. And I think it's like that thing you're talking about is when you tell them we're not, we're not making fun of you, we're not laughing at you, we're all doing this just for the purpose of being in this space and feeling each other's joy and energy together. And it's simple, but it's not. It definitely takes some skill, which you have really great skill of like cultivating those moments, I think. And it does take a little bit of like timing, and saying, okay, maybe shifting here or there. But I think, yeah, it's so true that it's just like if we can drop all of that like stuff, right? That's over us, and then we can just say, oh, we're just people and we're just in this place and we'd like to just figure out ways to connect. I think yeah, I think it could be a lot simpler in this world than we make it. Also, we all have our own things to be experiencing and processing all the time. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And I think that's really where, the art of facilitation comes back in. I think that people don't give great facilitation enough credit, because it really does, it is a skill set. Being able to be somebody, you are the center of this space. People are looking for you to be that space holder, the belonging holder. And so if people feel safe with you and they trust you, then okay, fine. F it. They'll try laughter yoga. But it's really for you to create a sense of energy and camaraderie with your energy, that makes them feel safe enough to try something silly. And I think a good trick, is to give people an out. It seems counterintuitive because if you're leading a group, it makes sense to create rules and then make everything mandatory to make sure everyone's doing what they're told. I'm a big fan of breaking the rules. Obviously, I created drunk yoga. Um, but when you let community be optional, I think it's really important to let everyone in the space have an option to choose the act. Like if you say we're going to do laughter yoga now, we talked about this last week. If you say you're going to do laughter yoga, and say this circle that we're in is for laughter yoga, and if you're going to be in this circle, we're going to be silly and we're going to get over ourselves and we're going to do something really weird and it's going to feel vulnerable and it's going to last about 20 minutes. And if you don't want to do that, then that's fine. But then, you can wait outside and we'll join you after. And so what that does is it creates a moment where the individual must make a choice. Again, belonging, they need to be able to choose it. And if they don't feel like they're accountable over their own experience, then you're not going to have their buy-in, because then they're just going to feel like they have to be there. And it's this energy of entitlement. Like they want you to make them laugh. Why should they laugh? Why should they participate in your event?
Mm.
Right? You haven't earned that trust yet. But as soon as you give them the choice to be there and just remind them that that there's the door, then they can totally leave, and some might.
Yeah.
Great. They didn't want to be there. But what it will do for the people who stay is reinforce that this is their choice and they want to participate. And you'll be surprised how quickly just that energy in and of itself sparks belonging, creates a different
So true.
atmosphere in the room. Yep.
True story. I relate with that so many levels, but like email marketing recently, I was working on doing the segmentation of my list, and
Yeah.
my open rate went up when I started to focus on the people that were active versus the people that were not active. And so it's like that thing where, yeah, I might have lost its subscribers, but they weren't really interested in what I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
So now I get to, get to talk to more people that are super interested and engaged in whatever it is I'm talking about. And I think that opportunity that they can opt out is so important. And I think that a lot of people that I work with, the clients I work with, I think they struggle with that opt in part, because I always hear clients say, I want them to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, we can want them to do a lot of things, but we can't make anybody do anything. And we actually want them to choose this thing.
Yep.
So, what does that look like? And how do we
Yeah.
explore getting to that place, right? Instead of trying to force boxes together that might not fit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's really about setting up the conditions for belonging to arise naturally. You can't force anyone to belong. I always say this to my clients as well. You can't just, and my audiences, I speak on this subject matter as well. So you can't just put a bunch of individuals in a room together and then say, you guys are community, have fun. You guys belong here, because that doesn't have any integrity to it. You didn't earn that yet. What you need to do as a facilitator is, instead of focusing on the emotion, focus on the conditions that will allow for that emotion to arise naturally. So setting up the conditions for community engagement to arise. Belonging. When people feel like they belong, community engagement arises naturally.
Hmm.
And
What?
to your point, with the email list, you helped people feel seen and heard, when you focused on the people who are actually showing up. And so when you've made them feel seen and heard, they feel like they belonged.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it's so hard because social media and all of this marketing they tell us about we have to have certain numbers on social media and how big is your email list? Mine is this big, yours is this. It's so competitive in the entrepreneurial world. And it's like, who cares? I had a great conversation with ConvertKit people because I don't know if you're familiar with ConvertKit, but they started doing they have a creator network that they launched last year for people who are on that platform. And they're basically doing these mixers where you can meet other creators using ConvertKit to understand how are you using it? How am I using it? And maybe that'll spark some ideas. Maybe we collaborate. And now they have this referral program. And so I was talking to somebody the other day about this. It's fascinating because they've taken on this place of where, okay, their product is now, you know, a way to connect people through community. And they're doing it in intentional ways with breakout rooms and things like that. And so I've been super happy to see that happen and for it to be like a real community with real people who you can connect with, because a lot of the time we just see like a forum and we don't know if those people are real on the back end of it. You don't know if it's a real person a lot of the time. So I think that's what is a game changer for and these live sessions and having that. I know that the biggest challenge that people that if I was listening, I would say right now is, okay, I hear it. Live experiences are really great. How do I start that if I haven't done it yet, or maybe haven't done it much? And how do I figure out when to get people together because everybody's got these crazy schedules. So it's like, what are your thoughts on like, you know, flow and how often you should meet, or is there any other tips you have around that?
Yeah, for sure. So again, a live experience doesn't have to be fancy. A live experience is just this. So
Yeah.
if you're not in a place right now as an entrepreneur to be doing like a monthly meetup group with 50 people in your community, just focus on optimizing the live experiences you're having one-on-one with your clients. Like if you're a life coach and your business model is one-on-one, start to hone in on that and make those, if they're already 50% optimized for belonging, how can you get them to 80%? How can you help your clients one-on-one leave their experience with you feeling like, wow, I feel great. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot wait to email them back. I cannot wait to engage with this person again. Focus on your one-on-ones. When you are in a place to start leading bigger gatherings and live experiences, I'd say consistency really matters. So quality over quantity. The best ones I've seen work are really just like once a month. They are consistent. You know what you're going to get. This streamlined system is very easy. You know where you can sign up. It's always in the same place in the website. Even if some of the material you're offering is repeat, people love to hear things more than once, especially if it's a value add for their business. They really just want to feel safe with you and be a part of a community of like-minded individuals. Even if they're signing up and not coming and just seeing the replay, like it still matters. You're bringing value to a community of people, even if you can't reach across the screen and touch them.
Yeah. Yeah. So great. What are you excited about this year? What are you looking forward to with the rebranding and all the things that you've been doing?
I'm looking forward to, oh, that's a lovely question. So I've been sort of deep in the weeds, in the technical stuff from the rebrand, rebuilding the website and focusing on SEO and getting my
All the
offering.
really fun stuff we love spending time doing.
I love too. It's just taking more longer than I thought it was going to. So I'm almost done with all that stuff, just like refining the websites and getting all of the email lists and all that stuff up and running and automated. But before I started Drunk Yoga, I was a solo performance artist, and I used to do one-woman shows. And I'm really excited to start bringing that back into, I think, my one-woman shows also always challenge this notion of what we think belonging means in our modern world. And I'm really excited to work on bringing that back into my fold, into this new Uplift Center experience, and start working on my next one-woman show. Because now I feel like it's not like I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs could relate to this, feeling like you have six jobs. And so now I feel like I'm finally at a place where all of my offerings are one job. Like I challenge social norms to help individuals feel like they belong.
Yeah.
And now another way I can do that is to get back to my one-woman shows and start to focus on that. So I this year I'm interested in diving back into monologue writing and performing and get better at speaking and really get out on the road and get back up on some stages to inspire people in a bigger venue.
That's what I was going to ask. Is this in person? Are you doing this in person or is this virtual or is there a combination?
Oh, in person, yeah.
Yeah. And are you still in New York?
I am in Beacon, New York, so I'm just an hour-long train ride up north, so pretty accessible. But I'm
Yeah.
in Hudson Valley technically.
Oh, Hudson Valley is such a nice area. Have you
Great.
done like improv like with
Yeah.
those? I'm trying to think of what it is now. The brigade something.
I did Upright Citizens Brigade,
Upright.
a long time ago, probably 10 years ago, and I also did the Magnet, did all that. Was in an improv troupe in college, did all that too.
So fun. Yeah, I took improv and just love the yes anding aspects of it and stuff. So those it just is interesting how all of these little avenues you take through life, they weave, and they come back together sometimes. So I'm super excited that you're like going back into this performance phase and like a new challenging thing for you. And yeah, if when you have that one woman show, I am coming up there. I've got to get that on my calendar. So you're gonna have to tell me when that is.
I absolutely will. Stay tuned.
Because that would be awesome. I think I can take the train all the way from Harrisburg, probably up to, at least pretty
Yeah.
close anyway.
Yeah, if you get to New York, you can get to Beacon.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think our train goes right to New York City. So I could
Great.
take the Amtrak and take it all the way to New York City and then take that one to you. So sounds exciting. Well, lots of things to come for you, it sounds like. And thank you so much for sharing such valuable, I think, super amazing information today because we get caught up in all the tech stuff, but at the end of the day, we're talking about people and belonging and cultivating this sense of togetherness and the positivity that comes from that. And so I think those foundational things are never going to go away. And then making them more fun because we don't want to have onboarding things that are not fun, right? A lot of clients are like, I need onboarding. What should I do? I'm like, you can do a video, you can do some screenshots and stuff, but like also, why don't you have a welcome party? Why don't you make it fun? And so I think those are some great tips that you should share today. I really appreciate you for being here. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you'd want to share with me today?
I know we're out of time, but I would just say that I'd love to speak with anyone and everyone who's interested in community building. So if you want to take a look at more of my really practical tools and resources, I do have a great blog that attempts to offer cool things like my favorite team building games and my 50 favorite icebreaker questions to ask at the top of the community building event. So you can find all that at the uplift.center and more on how I could help you optimize your next event for belonging through my facilitation consulting at that website as well, and more on my speaking engagements and one woman show that now everyone's going to come to at EliWalkerStories.com. And you can also find me on Instagram at Eli Walker Stories. And let's talk about play and belonging. I love it.
That's great. Well, again, thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing those resources. I know there's some really great stuff in there. I've already shared some stuff inside the Community Builders with Purpose from the other day that we were together and was jumping in there and chatting with somebody about some of those things. And I think it's just helpful to get new ideas and just kind of spark that. Okay, well, if I'm going to start with something, how do I do something that's different or unique? Okay, everybody's doing networking, so we don't need to like repeat the same thing that everybody's doing. How can we make it unique? And I think that's a lot of people what they ask me is like, how can we make this an experience? So, yeah, thank you so much for everybody who's listening. I appreciate your hanging out with us today. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please, if you want to do a rating and review, that would be super helpful. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, definitely like or and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and check out findcalmhere.com for upcoming podcasts and new things that are happening in this season 3. This actually is probably going to be the last episode. I haven't officially decided yet, but I'm going to unofficially decide that this is probably going to be the last episode of season 3 because I need some pause time. So I'm not sure what I'm doing for season 4 yet, but if you have any ideas and you want to tell me them, send me an email, deb@findcalmhere.com, because I'd love to hear what you want to do in the fall. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye.